Welcome to a journey through the life of a man who defines the word resilience. In the world of football, we often talk about legends in terms of goals scored or trophies lifted. But today we're looking at a man whose greatest victory didn't happen on the lush green grass of Highbury or Wembley. It happened in the quiet, difficult moments of self-reflection and recovery. This is the story of Tony Adams, the Mr. Arsenal who captained his club to glory across 3 different decades, but who also navigated the darkest depths of addiction to become a beacon of hope for athletes everywhere. Tony's story begins far from the bright lights of the Premier League. He was born on October 10, 1966, in Romford, Essex. Growing up in a working-class environment, life wasn't always easy. But for young Tony, the world made sense whenever he had a ball at his feet. Like so many kids in England, he spent every spare hour on the streets in local parks, honing a craft that would eventually take him to the very top. Even then, you could see the qualities that would define his professional life: a refusal to lose, a physical presence that commanded respect, and an innate understanding of the game's rhythm. It wasn't long before the professional world took notice. While several clubs were interested, it was Arsenal's youth academy that won his signature. Joining the Gunners wasn't just a career move. For Adams, it was the start of a lifelong love affair. However, the path to the first team wasn't a straight line. Many people forget that as a teenager, Adams faced significant hurdles. He struggled with injuries that could have ended his career before it truly began. Imagine being a teenager with the world at your feet, only to be told your body might not hold up. That kind of pressure does something to a person. It was during these early setbacks that the first seeds of his later struggles were planted. When you're sidelined and lonely, you look for ways to cope. For Tony, that coping mechanism eventually became alcohol. Despite the physical and personal pressures, his talent was undeniable. He broke into the Arsenal first team in 1983, just weeks after his 17th birthday. Can you picture that? A teenager, barely out of school, stepping onto the pitch for one of the biggest clubs in the world. He wasn't just a passenger, either. He was a force of nature. By the age of 21, he was named captain, the youngest in the club's history. This was the era of the famous boring Arsenal defense. But there was nothing boring about the way Adams organized his backline. Alongside teammates like Lee Dixon, Nigel Winterburn, and Steve Bold, Adams formed a defensive unit that is still talked about in hushed tones today. He was the general, the man who would put his head where others wouldn't put their boots. The peak of this early success came in 1989. Every football fan knows the story of Anfield '89 Arsenal needing to beat Liverpool by 2 clear goals on the final day of the season to win the title. It is perhaps the most dramatic conclusion to a league season in history. At the heart of that triumph was Tony Adams. He lifted the trophy that night, a hero to the North London faithful. More success followed in 1991, with another league title where the defense conceded only 18 goals all season. On the surface, Tony Adams had it all. He was the King of London, an England international, and a multimillionaire. But behind the scenes, the donkey, as some cruel rival fans called him, was carrying a weight that no one could see. The 1990s were a period of immense duality for Tony. While he was lifting cups, his personal life was spiraling. In 1990, the world saw the first major crack in the armor when he was sentenced to 4 months in prison for drink driving. He served 57 days, an experience that would have broken many, but Tony returned to the pitch and continued to perform at an elite level. This is the part of the story that is so difficult to wrap your head around. How can a man be the best defender in the country on a Saturday while battling a crippling addiction throughout the week? It speaks to his incredible physical constitution, but also to the culture of football at the time, where the drinking club mentality was prevalent. The turning point came in 1996. It was a year of massive change. On the pitch, it was the summer of Euro '96, where Adams led England to the semi-finals on home soil. He was magnificent, a rock at the back during those emotional wins against Scotland and Holland. But once the tournament ended and the adrenaline faded, Tony reached his breaking point. In August 1996, he took the incredibly brave step of publicly admitting he was an alcoholic. In the macho high-stakes world of 1990s football, this was unheard of. It was a moment of total vulnerability. Coincidentally, this was also the year Arsène Wenger arrived at Arsenal. Many thought the arrival of a cerebral, health-conscious French manager would spell the end for an old-school English defender like Adams. Instead, it was a rebirth. Wenger revolutionized Tony's diet and training, while Tony embraced sobriety with the same ferocity he used to tackle strikers. The results were legendary. The new Tony Adams was leaner, faster, and even more tactically astute. He led Arsenal to the double in 1998, famously scoring the final goal against Everton to clinch the league title. The image of Adams, arms outstretched in front of the North Bank, is one of the most iconic images in Premier League history. It wasn't just a goal, it was a celebration of his new life. He continued to win, adding another double in 2002 before retiring at the very top. But as Tony moved away from the playing field, he realized his mission was changing. He knew better than anyone the lack of support available for players struggling with their mental health and addictions. He had been to jail, he had lost his first marriage to Jane Shee, and he had looked into the abyss. He didn't want others to go through that alone. In the year 2000, while still playing, he he founded the Sporting Chance Clinic. This is perhaps his greatest legacy. It provided a safe haven for professional sportsmen and women to seek help for various forms of addiction and mental health issues, all while maintaining their privacy. From footballers to cricketers to rugby players, hundreds have walked through those doors and found the help Tony had to find for himself. He turned his pain into a platform for healing. Since retiring, Tony has remained a fascinating and multifaceted figure. He hasn't stayed in the narrow lane of ex-footballer. He's a man of deep passions. He married Poppy Teacher in 2004, finding the stability and emotional connection he had long craved. He's a father who cherishes his time with his children, a stark contrast to the chaotic years of his youth. But he's also shown us his creative side. Did you know Tony Adams is an avid painter and sculptor? He's a man who finds peace in the outdoors, whether it's cycling through the countryside or reflecting in nature. He even took a turn on Strictly Come Dancing, showing the world a softer, more adventurous side of the man once known as the toughest defender in England. He did it not for the fame, but for the challenge and to show that you can always learn new things, no matter your age or your past. Today, Tony Adams stands as a reminder that our mistakes do not have to define us. He could have been remembered as another tragic story of wasted talent and what-ifs. Instead, he is remembered as a titan of the game and a pioneer of mental health awareness in sports. He has been sober for over 25 years, a feat far more impressive than any trophy in his cabinet. He speaks openly about his journey, not for applause, but to strip away the stigma that prevents people from asking for help. When we look back at the career of Tony Adams, we see the titles, the tackles, and the 669 appearances for Arsenal. But we also see a man who had the courage to say, "I am struggling," and the strength to change. He showed us that leadership isn't just about shouting orders on a pitch. It's about leading yourself out of the darkness and holding a torch for others to follow. Whether you're an Arsenal fan or not, you have to respect the man who proved that the most important win of all is the one you achieve over your own demons. His life teaches us that no matter how far you fall, there is always a path back. It requires honesty, it requires a support system, and most of all, it requires the dedication Tony showed every time he put on that captain's armband. He is a local boy from Essex who became a global icon of recovery. So, what can we take away from the story of number 6? Perhaps it's the realization that greatness isn't about being perfect. It's about how you handle your imperfections. Tony Adams is a legend because he was a great footballer, but he's a hero because he's a human being who refused to give up on himself. He continues to live a balanced life, enjoying the small joys of family and art, reminding us all that there is life after the final whistle and that life can be beautiful, sober, and full of purpose. If you're inspired by Tony's journey of transformation, why not look into the work of the Sporting Chance Clinic or share this story with someone who might need a reminder that it's never too late to start over? Because if Tony Adams can change his life under the scrutiny of the entire world, there's hope for all of us.